Everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much for taking the time out your busy schedules to attend our meeting. We will get started as we do with reading of our rules for the Zoom meeting. Angie, if you could put that up, please. And just to let everyone know, we do have a packed schedule, and it's always good that people want to speak and keep the community informed. So I need the speakers to please pay attention to the timer because I'm going to have to hold you to your time today to make sure that we can get out on time and be respectful of everybody's time. Okay. For those of you all who are calling in, I'm going to read the housekeeping rules for the Zoom meeting. We're asking people to please raise their hands if you have a question. Please do not unmute yourself and just start talking. And that goes for the exec board too. It is very disruptive when you just unmute yourself and start talking. We want to, of course, try to keep our comments brief. We'll have 30 seconds to, ask your questions. We have actually 3 speakers today. So we ask you to please remain muted unless you're speaking. Of course, we won't have any shouting or inappropriate language on our meetings. We never have, and I don't foresee it happening today. And the last thing is please to follow all of the rules that we just mentioned. We don't want to have to mute anyone, and we definitely don't want to have to remove anyone from our meetings. At this time, we're going to keep moving. I am going to turn it over to Reverend Paul for our invocation.
Thank you, President. Father God, we thank you so much for how you have kept us from all harm and danger. We thank you for your presence. We certainly thank you for life. Now, God, as we enter this meeting, we ask that we rebuke anything that is not of a peaceful nature, that we are able to reason together for the betterment of our community. And we also extend a special plea for the bereaved families locally in this country and abroad, particularly in Ukraine, that you grant us peace and favor. And for that, we will continue to give you all the glory, honor, and praise. Bless the president of our association, the board, and all the participants on this call. And again, it is our plea that we reason together in peace. Amen.
Amen. Okay.
Amen.
We're going to keep moving again through the agenda. As last month, we actually have a change to the agenda that I would like to get approved. We were contacted by the city administrator, Kevin Donahue. As you all know, it is budget season everywhere. Our council has budget hearings coming up, and the mayor has budget hearings coming up. And so Mr. Kevin Donahue is actually going to give us just a 5-minute, 10-minute update on the mayor's budget. I also want to mention that LRCA did receive some suggestions for our community to add to the mayor's budget. If you on this call want to add to that, please, you can call the number 202-838-6058 and leave a message. If you want to email it, you can use our ask@lrcadc.org. All righty, so the change to the agenda would be that the city administrator, Mr. Kevin Donahue, again wants to give us a budget update, the mayor's budget update. So can I get a motion to change the agenda to allow Mr. Donahue to give us a budget update from the mayor's office?
I make a
I make-
motion that
Can
we
we
have,
oh, okay, go ahead.
well,
Go ahead, Tish.
okay. I make a motion that we add to the agenda the gentleman, Mr. Donahue from the city administrator's office to give us an update.
Okay, can I get a second?
I second.
Angie, can you unmute everyone, please? Okay. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, so it passes. We'll adjust the agenda to allow Mr. Kevin Donahue to give us an update on the mayor's budget. All right, so I just have actually just a few updates. I know that everybody has noticed that the Chick-fil-A is open. It opened on March 31st. And I know
Excuse me
you
one
all have,
moment. I'm going to mute everyone and just give me a second. Once I mute, if you could unmute yourself, Barbara.
okay. Okay. All right. Can you all hear me now? I'm sorry. All right. So I just have a couple of updates, and that is, I know that you all have noticed that the Chick-fil-A is open. It opened up on March 31st. I know you all have seen the long lines, and we know before the Chick-fil-A actually opened, we all knew that traffic was going to be an issue. Commissioner Brooks and Huff, in their when they speak, they will give you an update. They've been working diligently with DDOT. DDOT has been out there every day, and I think they'll be there for the next couple of weeks. So we'll let them speak to that. But if you haven't been there, go there, check it out. It's a lot of young people that seems to come there after school. And I do want to mention that the owner, Mr. Alan Thompson, as you all know from the last meeting, we had provided him with some names for people in our community, and 4 of our people from our community was actually hired. What he is actually going to do, has offered to do over the summer, would be to do a interview workshop for our young people, kind of the do's and don'ts when you go on an interview. So I just wanted to let you all know that. So the other thing is community concerns. As you know, last week we mentioned that we had set up an email for people who had community concerns, as sometimes we're not able to get to community concerns during our meetings. So we wanted to definitely have a way for people to, voice their community concerns. And it worked, because we got a community concern, and the presentation that we have today will actually address that community concern. So that is what it's all about. Please use the phone number 202-838-6058, or send us an email to ask@lrcadc.org. Okay, so LRCA, we okay, I think I just said, okay, so I'm gonna ask that the people who are presenting, again, please pay attention to the timer. I think the timer will be, you'll see yourself, and then you'll see the timer right next to you. So
Barbara, if you could please unmute yourself, you hit mute.
okay. You keep muting me, Angie. But anyway, another thing I want to mention is LRCA, we're going to do a candidates forum. As you all know, it's that season. So right now we are going to partner with our neighboring association, North Michigan Park Civic Association. So we will be doing a mayoral and a Ward 5 candidates forum. Right now, the date is May 9th and May 10th. More information, more details. It will be a Zoom meeting. It will not be an in-person meeting. We, of course, will have that in our newsletter, in our May newsletter, the details of it. At this time, the time will be from 6:30 to 8:30. So look for more details coming up on that. Right now, we're going to do our in-house, and we are going to, is Audrey on?
Yes.
Okay, Audrey, we're going to have Audrey give us the treasurer's report.
Good evening. I'm here to present the treasurer's report for April 4th, 2022. The beginning balance was $9,440.60. We had membership dues totaling $895.79. We had expenses totaling $374.34 for an ending balance of $9,947.31. Thank you.
Thanks. Can I get a motion? Can we unmute everybody? Can I get a motion to accept the treasurer's report as just reported by Audrey Walker, our treasurer?
I make a motion that we accept the treasurer's report as presented.
Thank you. Can I get a
And
second?
I second the motion.
I second the motion.
Okay, so it has been moved in second that we accept the treasurer's report as just reported by Audrey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We'll accept the treasurer's report. And now we need to accept the minutes as they are printed in our in our April newsletter. And again, I want to thank Rabiha. She's so very detailed that I think she gets every word that we say in these in the minutes. So can I get a motion? Please unmute everybody again. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes as they are printed in our April newsletter?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
minutes as printed.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
I
Second.
second the motion.
All right, it's been moved in second that we accept the March meeting minutes as they are printed in our April 2022 newsletter. All right, so now we're going to, we have our budget.
Before you move
Angie?
forward, I'm going to mute everyone. And once I mute everyone, if you can unmute yourself, President Roger.
Okay, okay. Okay, you all, we have prepared our budget and we want to, Angie's gonna pull the budget up. We will not go into details of this budget. Angie will put the budget in the chat for people to review at a later date. We want to give people time to look at it, and if you have any questions, we can answer questions. And for those of you all who are not on the phone and not able to get them out the chat, we will ask that you, if you want a copy of the budget, you can call the number 202-838-6058 to get a copy, or we're going to use the same email ask@lrcadc.org to request a copy of the budget. And what we will do next month, we will take any questions that people may have. But just to go over quickly those who can see it, but we have it split up into communications. We do have our scholarship. Angie, can you go down a little bit? We do have our scholarship that's coming up. We have association membership. We have our membership. And then we total everything and we tell you what we have collected or what we have paid. We also have committee program expenses. We had a really nice senior committee meeting. We have a couple of senior events coming up, one in May and one in June. And our committee chairs will speak to that a little bit later in the meeting. But we've done some estimating of like expenses of what we might spend there. We do welcome donations. We had donations from when we had the senior tea. The food was donated. So we open it up for people. If you want to make a donation to these events, please do. So again, this is the budget. Oh, we have promotional items, just to let you know in case, well, it says event tent and a banner. We may have a banner. If we don't have we are not able to locate our banner, then we of course would replace the LRCA banner. And then we have our awards and recognition. As you all know, we would give certificates to, the exec board, to our ANCs, our council, the mayor, to residents that help us distribute the newsletter, etc. So again, this is the budget that we are presenting for this program year. Again, take a look at it. We're happy to answer any questions. Thank you so much, Angie, and if you could put that in the chat. Okay, moving on. We're now going to hear from our ANC commissioners. We're going to start with Commissioner Allison Brooks. And let's wait for her to get the timer going.
Here that you have to really refine the craft, that you have to be a person, a journalist for the people, advocating for them, but also making sure that you're getting those questions, those answers to important questions.
I think someone needs to mute themselves. Thank you. Okay, so Angie, I'll wait for you to get the timer.
The timer's ready.
The time is ready. Okay, Miss Commissioner Allison Brooks, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. I have a few updates. As President Rogers mentioned, the Chick-fil-A has opened. There will be TCOs, traffic control officers, in place for 2 weeks. So those hours, I believe, are 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. I'm trying to confirm those hours, but you should expect to see them about that time every day, 7 days a week, or 6 days a week, excuse me, because Chick-fil-A is closed on Sundays for the next week and a half. We're waiting on DDOT to step up to the plate and honor the commitments that they made in our February meeting. So we're expecting that there'll still be some road changes to 3rd Street to accommodate the issues that we identified in previous calls with them. To date, I don't have a timeline as to when that will happen, but we are hopeful that it'll happen in the next couple of weeks. In the past 2 weeks, on March 26th, there were 2 cleanups that took place in the area. One was along 2nd and 3rd from Hellbenders down towards the intersection of 3rd and Riggs. And then there was another along North Capitol. Both were very successful. So thank you for participating in those. Also, just as a quick note, I'm sure that the mayor's office will probably talk about this, but DPR opened their summer registration. So if you're interested in registering a child for summer camp, you should do that starting today. Our next ANC meeting is scheduled for Monday, April the 25th. And I really wanted to take some time to encourage people to participate. I know that both President Rogers and Commissioner Huff provide a lot of update to the community. And I know that everyone is grateful for that, but nothing replaces actual participation by residents because we only have 3 minutes to give you an update, right? So there might be something that's important to you that we don't get to in those 3 minutes. So this is my plug to invite people out to these meetings and to participate as often as you can. Stay informed and invite a neighbor. Invite a neighbor to this meeting. Invite a neighbor to the ANC meeting. Let's get everyone involved so that you're never in a position to say, well, I didn't know anything about that. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Brooks.
Oh, and I'll put my contact information in the chat, but I'm sure by now everybody has it.
Okay, thank you. And you guys had 24 seconds to spare.
I tried to honor the rules.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Okay, next up we have LaRoya Huff.
Hi,
Commissioner
everyone.
Huff,
Can you hear me?
we can.
Okay, well, greetings, everybody. Just to piggyback about what Commissioner Brooks said, a letter was requested to DDOT to kind of reinforce what we observed on 3rd Street. There was a resolution to remove 2 parking spaces, but now that when DDOT came in, they referenced some short-term measures to eliminate that parking that's at Culture Coffee to that entrance to the Walmart. Talking about making it a right turn only coming out of Walmart. And I've had conversations with Walmart in the past and need to follow back through, because when you come out, sorry, there's a short space for people to walk. And DDOT did put a stop sign, but it's on the public space side. So looking to have some streamers coming up the ramp to defray any casualties. There was an accident on Saturday at that exit. And so there's been accidents there previously. So we're talking about short-term, intermediate, and long-term changes. Some that have been 4 years plus old, like a raised roundabout, because we observe cars, going every which way on both sides of the Allison's, SMD, and mine. The other thing, because traffic is important in our community and safety is very important, there are now speed bumps on Nicholson Street in the 500 block where the rec center are. I did talk to neighbors to find out if they were happy. I'll be quite frank with some of these speed bumps. While they're good, I think if you look on Sergeant Road in Ward 5, you'll notice that those stop signs are lit. There are speed bumps at the stop sign. And because we have children, because we have our center right there, I think that we should do you guys a service to insist that be reinforced. Eastern Avenue is still a problem. There is nothing to stop traffic from Riggs Road to Sergeant Road. We know that there's no markings across the street. There's nothing to stop any safety. The only other thing I want to mention, that a resident on Oneida in the 600 block referenced neighbors fixing cars. So I rode by, it did in fact have a tire kind of out in the street. And so we want to deter that, because that's not a business. Apparently a resident lives in that corridor, and we have to, when we see it, let your commissioners know. I did engage the MPD. And that's pretty much it. There's Earth Day coming up, but I'll share that at the LRCA juncture. Thank you very much.
Thank you. LaRoya, do we have someone from MPD on the line? Were you able to reach someone?
They were supposed to be on the call. That was my word. So let me just delve out.
I'm sorry.
and
Is there?
They're here.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Let's get to MPD. We'll come back to ANC commissioners, because we want to let them speak so they can get back to protecting us. Rodney, I see your hand up, but if we could let Captain John Terry go, and then we'll take your question. Thank you. Captain Terry.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Hey, so I know the Oneida thing was brought up, the vehicles, people working on the vehicles. I know Sligo Mill Road was also an area of concern. And so I'm gonna have officers monitoring that. If you do notice that, just please call 311 and we can have an officer come out, and we'll at least talk to the people, and then if we can address it both from a police standpoint and a community standpoint, that'd be pretty helpful. And then there were a couple matters that were brought to my attention. So this month, Sorry. Yeah, so this month in PSA 406, looks like we had we had 180W, 2 robberies over the last month, and then quite a few theft from autos. Theft from autos, we're seeing a lot of issues with that. Tire rim thefts, obviously. Airbag thefts. I know we've seen that in the preceding months. I haven't seen if we've had those issues, but really the wheel and tire thefts are huge, and that's really an issue all over the city. I think we're up to something like, something crazy like 600% for the year, and 4D, I think 5D is up 500%. I mean, it's sort of an epidemic right now, unfortunately. We do have, the community has provided us with quite a bit of video. So we have a couple of vehicles we're looking for that are involved, or that we think are involved in the wheel and tire thefts. And so our officers have those BOLOs, and they're on the lookout for those vehicles. We also have our crime suppression team out there, and they're reviewing a lot of the community video to see if we can get like actual tag numbers or suspect identification based on videos and movements of known suspects that they have. So we are working on that. That's not something we're just like sitting idly by for. We've sort of switched the way we're processing those crime scenes. So generally we wouldn't have a detective come out for like a property crime, but detectives are coming out, and some of our other crime scene folks to try to glean as much information from these scenes as we can, to try to get those knocked down. And then I know the LaSalle Rec Center, the Riggs LaSalle Rec Center, there was an attempted robbery there, where individuals playing on the field there with some of his family members and got assaulted by a group of kids, and got assaulted by a group of kids. They tried to rob him. They weren't able to get his property, but they, for whatever reason, stayed around the area. We got there, talked to the victim. Officers were able to stop a group of mix of young adults and juveniles. The victim was able to identify a couple of the individuals there, so we ended up getting 3 arrests for that offense. One of the individuals did have a gun on him, so we were able to recover that weapon and placed him under arrest. And it was a pretty bold attack, actually, which was a little bit surprising. And then I know someone brought up the stabbing at Riggs and 3rd. What I think that was, I didn't get a date on that, but we did have one. It was a domestic. It started in the Walmart and then spilled out into that Riggs and 3rd Street area. I think that's what that alert was for. It was a domestic violence incident. The victim of the assault actually stabbed the suspect in that case, and the suspect who was stabbed actually got arrested. Because it looks like it was a self-defense case. So there was no real danger to the community, and the respect that it was a domestic. It was between 2 known parties, and actually the victim of the stabbing was actually arrested because it was a self-defense case. And then I know traffic's a hot topic, especially along Eastern Avenue. I met with the Queens Chapel Civic Association, some of their members, and DDOT. They put a meeting together because they're having a lot of the same issues along Eastern Avenue, because it's just sort of obviously it's a straight stretch, and people get rolling. There's not a whole lot of traffic control, and it's sort of on the outskirts of DC between Maryland, and there's some jurisdictional issues there. So that's continued to be a problem. I think so. We'll put a traffic car out there to monitor that area, but as far as like long-term wholesale changes, that's going to have to be a partnership with DDOT to try to get some traffic control measures put there. Just because the conditions are ripe for aggressive driving out there, unfortunately, and unless we change the roadway, there's really nothing we can do other than just enforcement, and that's only going to be a short-term solution. When people see the officer out there, they might slow down. So that's something we're gonna have to look at, sort of long-term solution for that kind of thing.
Okay. Do we have any questions for Captain Terry? Thank you so much for coming on. And when is your next meeting? Is it tomorrow?
The second Tuesday, so the 12th, April
Or is it
12th.
12? Okay. All right. Do we have any questions for Captain Terry? We did allow Captain Terry more time because I know that public safety is important to all of us. So I don't know if there's any in the chat, but I do have one question, Captain Terry. One of my neighbors caught on her Ring camera a person going into, and it was, I don't know, a 3-minute video of a person going into her neighbor's truck. This person was on one of the bikes that you rent. However, they spray painted it like a green color or something. And I think they called the police, but I don't know. I don't think the police actually came out to view the video. What would be the process for something like that? Should an officer come out, or what should the neighbor who has this video, what should she do with it?
Anyone with any video of any offense, if an officer doesn't contact them, they can email it to me, and I can get it forwarded to the right people.
Okay.
I just put my email in the chat. Really, an officer should be coming out and contacting the complainants, but I'm gonna have to talk to some of the younger officers. I think have gotten complacent in how they respond to calls. They get a call for someone in a vehicle and they might just go look, and if the person's not there, clear the call. They really need to be reaching out to the complainants to see exactly what's going on there. Yeah, and those rideshare, those rideshare bikes, I guess they're called, within a month of them being put out, people figured out how to break the locks and whatnot on them. So, it's kind of continuing to be an issue, unfortunately.
Okay. Do we have any questions in the chat?
Yeah,
Yeah,
this is Catherine. I'm manning the chat. We have one question, and then I also want to note that Rodney has a question as well and has had his hand raised. The only question in the chat is, when was the attempted robbery at the rec center? So let's answer that and then go to Rodney.
Yep, that was Monday, March 21st, and it was right around 5:30 p.m.
Yep. I remember seeing the cars there. Okay, Rodney's question.
One comment and one question. Thank you guys for arresting the folks that were accused of the robbery around the rec center. Can you share anything else about that, just very briefly?
So I'm not sure what kind of information you're looking for. So basically our victim was just playing on the field. There was some kind of verbal altercation where he started being harassed by a group of individuals. It sounds like him and his family tried to pack up and leave, and as they walked by, the group came up from behind him, assaulted him, tried to take his backpack. He held on to it. They weren't able to, and then they just decided to walk off. When they walked off, he had some more words for them, and that's when actually one of the suspects pulled out a gun. He didn't point it at him, but he showed him he had a gun. And then the guy, our victim, said, "You know what? Never mind." And actually,
are you able to tell us if these were neighborhood kids in terms of the people that were arrested?
I can look. Hold on. Give me 2 seconds here. It looks like one was, and then the other 2 carry an address outside the city. But I mean, that's not to say that they don't have family in the area or something.
Sure. My other question, I'll be real quick, is that the block of Chilling Place between Riggs Road and 3rd Street always has problems. We've gone from a couple of shootings in that block, and there's no addresses on that block on the north side of Chilling Place. So we've gone from shootings to carjackings to people stealing cars to people breaking in cars. is there any way MPD can consider putting up a camera that just catches that block?
I know the crime cameras are really tightly held by the city. It's hard to get one added, and it's hard to get one moved, and it's even harder to get one added. I know that as the summer goes, I'm sure we're going to see an uptick of things in that area. We do have trailer cameras. In the 4th District, we have 2. One's down on 5th and Kennedy Street for obvious reasons. And then we have one that kind of floats. I think it might be at 4th and Taylor right now because we had some issues with some gun violence over there as well. But definitely, we can look into moving that 4th and Taylor one. I'll have to talk to the commander about it.
Thank you.
And Rodney, maybe we can see maybe who on those blocks maybe have cameras. Maybe we can encourage residents to get cameras. I know on my block, we the one that recorded the incident I just reported is down the hill. I have one, I'm in the middle of the block. And then we have a neighbor who's up by the corner who has a camera as well. So that may be another solution, is to suggest that, you know, we get a couple of, you know, cameras on that block.
Hey, Bobby, just real quickly, I think that's great. It's just that this is one of those blocks where there literally is not a street address facing Chilling Place.
Oh,
it really isn't. So, but that's a great idea for other areas. And maybe we can talk to some of those homeowners about putting something on the side of their homes.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
I'll follow up.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions for Captain Terry?
Yeah, we have a couple more. We have LaRoya has a question. I'm going to read the other question in the chat before you jump in, LaRoya. I have noticed that there's a concern about crime. Can you provide data, an Excel spreadsheet, for example, of where each infraction occurred, so we as a community can become more aware of areas of concern?
I could certainly put something like that together, but I'm going to also link a website. So I already have one link in there. That's for the security camera rebate program that the city has. If you click on that link, there's actually some information on how the city will actually give you some kind of rebate or refund if you install cameras on your property. And then I'm going to put this DC crime cards link in here, and this will actually let you look at most of our property crimes and most of our common property crimes and our violent crimes. And you can actually search your address. You could search by PSA, by ANC, by length of time, and it'll map out every single crime within those search parameters. And then it'll actually give you, under the map, it'll actually give you a list of what the offense was, the date, time, where it occurred, and whatnot. So it actually populates all that information for you. And then you don't have to wait for me to send it out. You can get it at 2 in the morning if you can't sleep, kind of thing, you know.
Okay, we thank you, Captain Terry. We have to move the agenda. We're so happy that you are actually on, and we invite you for the next 2 months. We have a meeting in May and June. So again, we want to thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks. All right, continuing on with the agenda. Do we have a representative, I'm sorry, from the Councilwoman Janice Lewis George's office?
We do.
Okay, hi, Jim. This is Jim Lewis. He's new. He's new to Councilwoman Lewis George's office, and he actually lives in our community. So Angie, if you could start the timer, you'll get 3 minutes to give us whatever update you need to provide to us.
Yeah, so I'm going to be very quick today. I just want to say thank you for inviting me to this meeting. I will try to go to as many as I can going forward. My name is Jim Lewis. I live in Riggs Park, right above the Walmart. So I'm right there and where everything's happening. And I was happy to meet the commissioners, Huff and Brooks, earlier this week during the Chick-fil-A opening, just to see what was going on with the traffic and everything. So I'm here to be a resource for everyone here for Ward 4. Just give me a call, send me an email. I'm going to share my contact information. As someone said earlier, right now signups for summer camp is happening, which is exciting. Get in there really quick because they're running out of room really quick. So definitely sign up your kids as quickly as possible. Also, the budget season's still going. We got budget hearings all week. And that phone number that was shared earlier is really important. And other news is redistricting is moving along. There is a map, and I'm going to share a link to Council Member Louis George's website with more information about the redistricting. And the final vote will happen end of May, early June for both ANC and for the council. Ward 4 council, the ward itself is not changing that much, but the ANC is having some changes. 1 second, let me share the link. And there you go. And also, we're doing this event every other Thursday. It's the second and fourth Thursday every month, where we're going to a different neighborhood in the ward. We're bringing agencies in person. The council member will be there. We'll go to a centralized location and knock doors with neighbors and have neighbors come to the location we'll be at. So we're calling it Care Days. I believe Riggs and Lamond are at the end of June and early September. We're taking August off, but they're right back to back in the order. So I'm going to also share with you links to our Care Day information, and we're really excited about it. We get to talk to everyone in the neighborhood, and it's easy for me for those 2 days because I walk out my front door. Here is the link for that. And the last thing is I'm going to share our newsletter. It's online. It comes out every week. So we have a very constant stream of news coming out of the office about budgets, about legislation, etc. So we're super excited about that. And we're also working on a physical senior newsletter that should be coming out soon. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jim. Do we have a couple of questions for Jim? If you want to put your questions in the chat. Any questions for Jim? I think Rodney had a question. Anthony, you're up next.
Hey, Jim, this is Rodney Foxworth. I live on 5th Street, right beside the Walmart apartments. So welcome to the neighborhood.
Thank you.
This is a follow-up question to something we sent to Councilmember Janice Lewis George probably about a month or so ago.
Sure.
There are group homes in the 500 block of 3rd Street.
Yeah.
Near the intersection of 3rd and Nicholson, right by the alley. That's just problem.
Okay.
And we were waiting for you to come on board to follow up. Can you tell us if you've gotten that file yet? If not, I can get your email and resend it.
What we're going to do, I'm going to look and see if it's in our system that we have, our constituent system, and then I can just move forward. But I'm also going to give you my email again. I shared it in the chat. It's jlewis, JLEWIS @dccouncil.us. My name is unfortunately very similar to the council members when it's a email. So just make sure not to email me directly. And I'll be happy to move forward with that, contact the right agencies, help you with any 311 requests, anything that needs.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. We do have another question. Will this redistricting be discussed at the meetings? Please add citizens aware to your list.
I am not sure about that.
Tisha Cockrell is going to give an update on redistricting, but no, the committees do not come out to meetings. There will be two more opportunities for the public to weigh in on the final Ward 4 map. But no, they've never come out to, they only did the ANCs. Those are the only meetings that that committee members attended.
There's one other comment in the chat from LaRoya. Just so the community knows, I will resume a public safety meeting for our community wherein we can ask questions and get answers. Unfortunately, she was unable to get an answer about taping at New Hampshire and Eastern and to talk about lights. Stay tuned. And LaRoya, I don't know if you still had a pending question from earlier or if that was your comment that you had wanted to make previously. If you could let us know.
Yeah, it was reported to me that there was taping up at New Hampshire and Eastern. And so I had given that to the commander as a talking point so that residents would know what that looked like. And to Rodney's point, I'll work with him. Lighting has improved in some of our areas to deter crime. And I still feel like Fifth Street doesn't have adequate lighting. I'll also talk to the Walmart Totten Square to see, especially by their garage gate, if they can put some sort of camera, if Five Guys can put some sort of camera. We have businesses there that should be inclusive in deterring bad actors in incidents of crime.
And as a neighbor and not as a constituent service person, I do, see that the area can have some high crime rate by the gate behind where I live. So I'll bring that up also to the council member and to our team. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Jim. We look forward to you attending we have 2 more meetings before we break for the summer. So we look forward to you attending those meetings. Right now, we're going to go to, is Damian McDuffie on?
Good afternoon, President Rogers. Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Okay. We're going to have Damian for 2 minutes, and then we're going to go to Anthony Mitchell, our MOCA from the mayor's office, and then we'll have him to introduce our city administrator.
And thank you, ma'am. I'm going to not have my video on. I believe the host stopped my video, so I'm just going to go ahead and share a couple of updates. The Department of Transportation will be installing a speed hump, a necessary traffic calming measure along the 500 block of Hamilton Street Northeast. They have not provided a date on that, but that's again, that's much needed traffic calming measure. I'm glad that you did announce that they will be having a couple of hearings coming up on April 7th, as well as April 28th, regarding the ANC redistricting map. I'm going to put a couple of links in the chat regarding that, just to give the residents some more information. And lastly, I just want to share that ANC 5A will be holding their next meeting on Wednesday, April 27th. I believe the notice for that meeting will go out around the 20th of April, but I did at least want to share that next meeting for the 27th of April. And that's it for me, President Rogers.
Okay. Thank you so much. Any
Thank you all.
questions for Commissioner McDuffie? Okay, I just have a correction to what I just said. We want to get the ANCs and our council offices in, and that would be Silas from McDuffie's office. Councilmember Kenyon McDuffie is on the line.
Good evening, everyone. This is Silas Grant, Senior Advisor in the Ward 5 Council Office. Just 2 quick items I wanted to run through. Obviously, well, 3. Obviously, you mentioned budget season is upon us, and so our office is working really hard on that particular function, which happens for us every year. I think at the last meeting, I sent you all the calendar for that, but that's actually still up on the dccouncil.us website for you all to check out. With respect to redistricting, the subcommittee will hold 2 hearings, one on April 7th and one on April 28th. And there are opportunities for residents to sign up on the council's website to be able to testify. The subcommittee staff will use the mapping mechanism to look at the boundaries and to consider what has been submitted by each subcommittee from each ward and to make any changes that are necessary from that point. The subcommittee will mark up the redistricting bill on or around May 18th. And so they are anticipating the committee of the whole considering the bill for the first reading on May 24th. The estimated date, I believe, is June 7th, where we can expect the council to consider the bill and a 90-day emergency version that will take effect on an expedited basis so that we can get these boundaries in place for the November 22 election. The other item I wanted to mention really quickly, I know there's been a lot of discussion around the renaming of the library at Lamond-Riggs for Lillian Huff. Spoke to our committee team, and the committee of the whole is yet to schedule the public hearing date for that. We're still checking in to see when that date will happen. We know there are a number of people from the Lamond-Riggs area that want to sign up and testify in support of that. And so as we move forward in the next couple of months, hoping to get that date so that we can share that with you all so that you all can weigh in and testify on that. So that's
Okay.
it.
Okay, do we have any questions for Silas? And while we're saying if we have any questions, I just want to ask our DOEE representatives, thank you so much for your patience. Our city administrator is actually on and can't stay on, so we want to just allow him to give us an update on the mayor's budget. So any questions for Silas? Okay, we'll move on. We'll now hear from Anthony Mitchell. He is our ward for Mocha from the mayor's office. Anthony, you're up.
Hey, President Rogers. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to come and share a few updates. I'm going to get out the way because we have the more than capable city administrator coming behind me who's going to give you a very detailed look at the mayor's budget, but also sit for any questions if you have any on that. Outside of the budget in this particular presentation, of course, you can always go to budget.dc.gov to check out what the mayor has proposed. You can check it out by ward. You can check it out by particular issues. So if your thing is transportation or healthcare, you can see what specific investments we're making. Council's already been doing their hearings and that's been well underway, but we look forward to continuing to engage the community like we did earlier today, where Mayor Bowser presented her budget investment for MPD. We're doing a number of those so folks know what's going on, and we're happy to share more information if folks have any questions and want to continue to engage. I know a couple people mentioned about the Chick-fil-A opening up at 3rd and Riggs. I've been out there just about every day monitoring with DDOT to see what improvements need to be made in the future after this particular instance with Chick-fil-A in these first 2 weeks. They're going to be submitting to us a 90-day plan after they assess traffic to see what else needs to be happening outside of our particular involvement via DDOT and all kind of other traffic measures we've been making in the area and what we need to do moving forward. I also want to confirm, it was mentioned about the parking spots outside of Walmart. We will be removing those. I talked to DDOT late last week, and we're confirmed that those, the two immediately outside of Walmart's purview when you're coming out the garage will be removed, and those are scheduled to happen later on this spring. I do want to also mention that, as Silas mentioned, the renaming committee for Lillian Huff for the library, as well as there are some folks that submitted in the name Robert Bryant. That's currently open for public comment, and that's going to close on April 8th, which is this coming Friday. You can email any public comments that you have to lamondriggs.naming@dc.org, and that's going to be submitted to the chief librarian. They already brought it to the library committee last meeting, which was last month. And if you want to weigh in, you can do that, and they'll be bringing it up in the following meeting, which is in May. They meet on a bi-monthly basis for the actual vote, so folks can engage on that way as well. And last but not least, DC is open, but COVID is still present in the district, so we want to make sure that we're utilizing our COVID center, which is located at the People's Congregational Church on the 4700 block of 13th Street Northwest, where you can get masks, rapid tests, COVID, all that good stuff. As well as for seniors, you can go to Hattie Homes, which is 324 Kennedy Street Northwest on Monday, Wednesday, Friday between the hours of 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. and get any rapid antigen tests. But with that, I'm going to get out the way. I'll sit for any questions if you have any, and I'm happy to leave you in the capable hands of our city administrator, Kevin Donahue.
We have one question in the chat. Who pays for the traffic control officers at Chick-fil-A? Is Chick-fil-A charged for that, or does DDOT pay for it?
So traffic control officers are already paid by the District of Columbia because they work for the Department of Transportation. So not necessarily a Chick-fil-A sponsored thing. That we heard the concerns from the community about there being a real issue with Chick-fil-A coming to that intersection. So we as your government wanted to make sure that we were providing resources in the area and deploying, personnel as well as, signage and all kind of other measures in the area to make sure that people were being safe in response to a concern that a number of your neighbors raised, Ms. Baker, I'm sorry, Mr. Baker, about, possible concerns in the area. So we're continuing to monitor it in the short term, as well as how this is gonna, and if there is anything else that we need to deploy in the area for the long term.
Okay, thank you so much, Anthony. And would you like to introduce our city administrator?
Sure thing. You've probably seen him on TV so many times that it wouldn't, hurt for us to introduce him again. So I present to many who already know, but introduce to some who may not know, Kevin Donahue, our city administrator, who does a phenomenal job of, working with the budget and all the other things that help to keep the city moving. So with that, I'm going to shut up and let him take it from here.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, President Rogers, for having me. And I've come to talk about the budget, and I appreciate the time that you've given me. And I will do my best to stick to the 10 minutes. I appreciate that. I was trying to think about how I get it through 3 minutes. I was going to accommodate that if that's what I saw here. So I'm Kevin Donahue. I'm the city administrator for the District of Columbia. Lived in the Lamond community for 20 years, probably the longest I had lived anywhere in my life. And so it's really nice to be talking about the budget in the Lamond-Riggs community. So I try to get out as much as I can every February through April to talk about the budget because it has a profound impact on people's lives. It's often difficult to decipher or understand. And really, I'm going to walk through some highlights of the budget here and really try to highlight the importance of getting involved now, because the budget is with the council now, as nothing is finalized. And then on the beginning of the process for the next fiscal year, getting involved in helping us formulate the budget. So there's a presentation that a colleague of mine had that I think I briefly saw up on screen. And why don't we sort of just jump right into it? So the context for the budget, if you go one slide forward, is really everything over the past couple of years have been COVID. And so for the first year, it was about funding our response to the emergency, testing, healthcare and services, trying to reopen schools, trying to keep services going and change how they're delivered. The budget that we have that's with the council now, which is the fiscal year that goes from October 1st of this year for 12 months, we call it the FY23 budget, is about recovering from that journey that started just about 2 years ago. And so the emphasis is still not quite just on the health aspects, but on the recovery of our jobs, recovery of our kids and the learning they've lost in schools, in dealing with some of what I believe are some ripple effects of the pandemic, whether it relates to public safety, opioid addiction, housing instability. So we're in a different phase of it, but a lot of the themes that you see have their roots in what we spend more money in trying to help DC grow back better and recover in the past 2 years. So with that as context, I'm going to give a little bit more context in the next few slides, and I'll be really quick about this, but I do this so you have some sense of the overall structure that we developed the budget in. We typically start in October, November of last year. We spend about 4 months on the executive side putting the budget together. In March, we submit it to the city council. They hold hearings and finalize it typically in the month of May. And then we begin the process the following October. You see here some information about just the city revenues that you saw took a hit in early COVID, but came back, and those are revenues that we have the ability to then spend on some of our recovery. You see unemployment that was at 5% at the end of 2019, jumped up to 12 or 13% in some wards of our city, jumped up north of 15, 20%. It's now down to 5.8%, but we want that to keep going down. You also see some information about our residential and commercial vacancy rates, which drive some of the economic foundation of the revenues we have. And when our CFO would look at how to project revenues, they would look at economic activity, and they found some of the single biggest indicator of that activity was actually vaccination rates, because it connected to how healthy people would be and the ability of individuals, the ability of communities to be able to recover and open again. And so that's some of the context that we developed the budget in. Now, through those years, we had a significant reduction in our revenues. And if you go to the next slide, we look at, we've had federal aid that has been able to help continue some of the services we've done over the years. In the first couple of years, it dealt with response to the health pandemic, but then a lot of the federal aid, there was flexibility in how states could spend it. So we were able to provide it for affordable housing, for economic recovery, for gun violence prevention, learning loss. Those are all items that we were allowed, all jurisdictions were allowed to be able to spend our federal aid in. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see some of the big buckets that we spend our money in. So you see I'm just going to talk about on the right-hand side, $5 billion, $5.7 billion in health and human services, public education, $4.1 billion. You go down to public safety at $1.7 billion. So if you combine health and human services and education, it's about 50% of our total budget. And our budget is about $12 billion in what we call program funds. What you don't see here is about another $7 billion in capital dollars that we spend on roads, bridges, building schools and rec centers. In my time in DC government, which at this point goes back about 20 years, those top two rows of health and human services and education is what's grown the most, both in the dollar amount and the percent of our total budget. Shonda, why don't you jump ahead a couple of slides to spend a few minutes going into some of the specifics. And I'm going to tell you where to find this whole presentation at the very end, because I'm just going to talk about a few things in here with the time I have. So in public safety, there's funding to hire additional officers. We've seen our police force shrink by about 300 to 400 officers over the past 3 years. So there's funding to be able to reverse that both through retention incentives and new hiring funds. We are also increasing the number of workers we have working as violence interrupters. So in this year's budget, in other words, the budget that we're in, the year we're in right now, we're quadrupling the size of our violence intervention program. We found for next year, we're adding 23 individuals to do, as we call them, life coaches and case coordination for individuals that they're working with. We also have funding for housing that provides rental assistance for those that are at risk for violence, as well as $6 million to support prevention programs aimed at youth who are at risk of being involved in violence. If you jump to the next slide, Shonda, I'll just touch on a few health and human service items, which is we're increasing pay for direct support professionals, those that work with our nursing homes, some of those with disabilities. We're also providing pretty extensive funding, if you go down a few bullets, to modernizing our permanent and temporary supportive housing shelters and our transitional housing we have for those experiencing homelessness. And then for just some of the items we have for senior citizens, there's funding for dental services, funding to provide free personal tablets and phones to individuals, expanding the connector card program to allow for increased mobility, increasing nutrition support program by providing grocery cards to eligible seniors. We're also capping the amount of property assessment can increase. It's currently at 5%. We're reducing that to 2% to be able to limit any increases to property taxes. If you jump one slide further, Shonda, you see some of the investments we have in education. The biggest one's going to be in the increase we give to the amount that both public and charter schools get for each student they have. It's 5.8% increase, the largest one certainly that I can remember. And a large part of the increase also is increasing the amount that we provide for at-risk students and special education services, and allows for that money to really follow students from school to school, so schools have the appropriate funding to be able to serve their kids. There's also funding to replace a lot of the HVAC systems and do preventive maintenance for those that we have. If you jump forward one, Now I'm just going to go until my time runs out to respect your time. We'll not get through all the areas. We have significant increase in the opportunities that young people have for recreation, both summer youth employment program, our summer camps and year-round camps. There's also funding to have a citywide sports complex for residents on the RFK campus that'll provide training for gymnastics and indoor track, climbing walls, boxing, some items that is hard to put in a neighborhood rec center, but we know there's a tremendous amount of interest in. And if you go one further to education, you also see that there's funding, significant funding to continue to increase, to improve our schools, our rec centers for both renovating those that we have, as well as building new schools and increasing the number of schools that we have that will be able to undergo full modernizations. So I'm going to respect the time. Oh, it's counting down again. Should I stop here? Or
well, we were going to, we didn't know you had a presentation, and this is information that I think is important to the community. So if you want to take, 4 or 5 more minutes, that's fine.
I will stop before the next clock comes to respect everyone's time.
Okay, thank you.
4 or 5 minutes. So a few items in transportation, which I think is next. So here we're trying to have investments for additional traffic safety measures. So we're going to fund what we call quick build, or things that we can do very quickly for traffic calming, as well as $200 million for longer term streetscape improvements. DDOT has a backlog, as I'm sure you all know, of improvements that they've approved of, that they think are good ideas. And so this allows them to work through that backlog. It also provides additional funding for mobility, particularly bus mobility. So in addition to having what we call the K Street Transitway, that will allow for downtown mobility, we're going to be investing in increasing the number of bus-only lanes throughout the city, as well as funding to electrify and expand the circulator service that we do have. There's also funding for 100 new crossing guards and traffic techs to be able to be deployed throughout the city, both at schools, but also other areas that we know we have the need for traffic calming, so we can deploy them where DDOT believes are going to have the biggest impact. A few items on affordable housing on the next slide. So there's a lot here. I'm just going to mention a couple of items because I'll tell you where to find the full presentation. But the mayor's setting aside $500 million for the Housing Production Trust Fund, and then funding it to allow for half of it to be deeply affordable for those at the lowest income levels, which is about 10 times the amount of money that we used to spend in it, and also providing funding of over $100 million for individuals who are at risk of eviction to provide utility and rental assistance. On the left-hand side, you see a lot of information and investments for individuals who are homeowners and helping them stay in place. So that includes a single-family residential rehab program for individuals to be able to reimburse them for fixing items in their home that they cannot afford to fix. Flood Smart program to provide in flood-prone areas. I know this is one of them. Retrofit homes to reduce the risk of damage, and funding for weatherization and lead removal. And then if we jump 2 slides forward, thank you. Throughout the past couple of years, many of our agencies have been under tremendous strain. They continue to be at the amount of demand for service that they've been asked to do. And so we recognize that many agencies that are important to your community just are understaffed. And so throughout a lot of city agencies, it won't be a singular grand program, but we try to increase staffing levels at some agencies that provide core services directly to residents, whether that's OUC for the 911 call center, more firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics, significant increases to DPW for seasonal positions for leaf collection, for snow removal, for waste collection, increasing the number of people we have at call centers, the unemployment call center, but some of our others as well, more individuals being able to work for DMV, so there's shorter lines there, That's just some of the agencies that we've tried to increase. Sometimes it's 5 or 6 employees, sometimes it's 40 or 50 employees, but try to make sure we align the staffing level at agencies to meet the demand that they're experiencing from our residents. And I'll just stop with the minute left. First of all, to say, I love this budget. I think it's going to be great for the city. But it's really important for you to get involved in the budget in any way that you can know how. So the reason I go out is I've always found budgets are documents that really reflect the actions behind our words. There's some things you'll see in this presentation and is at budget.dc.gov that you're going to get excited about. You want to make sure stay. Other things you think is not enough, you want to increase, maybe things you disagree with. And at this point of the budget, I encourage you can reach out to your council members. It's with the council. You can reach out to me if you have questions. And I'll put my email address in the chat, but it's kevin.donahue@dc.gov. And if I were talking to you in January, February, the mayor is developing the budget, so you would provide that feedback to me and the mayor's office. So please get involved for both the things that you like to make sure it stays and things that you want to help shape that you think our community needs. And I'll stop there. I really appreciate the extra time. And I'm happy to take any questions that you have. And if there are questions that we don't have time for, I commit to responding tomorrow. If the number of questions starts to really limit the agenda that you have for the meeting today. Thank you, President Rogers. I'll turn it back to you.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Donahue, for the great presentation. Do we have any questions in the chat, Katie?
Yeah, yes, we have several questions in the chat.
Okay.
Since a lot of this money comes from the American Recovery Plan Act and is a one-time investment, how does the city follow up next year? I'll start with that, and then there are a few more.
That is a great question. So the ARPA money, or the American Rescue Plan funding, in the way that the federal government wrote the law, it lasts for 3 years. And so what we did, and we have to, in DC, you have to do a 4-year financial plan. So you have to show you balance the budget for 4 years. So the funding that you see here, this funding that I did not get to, we fully fund at a pretty constant level for 3 years. In the 4th year, we continue with local funding. To try to anticipate and avoid the prospects of a fiscal cliff that would happen in 2024.
Thank you. Next question. I appreciate that the budget funds future segments of the Metropolitan Branch Trail. Does this year's budget include designing the Fort Totten to Avondale segment, or is that still in the future?
I believe that is in the budget that we've submitted the money, the funding to be able to continue that. And it's a policy intent that we have.
Great. Are there any funds in the budget under public safety for mental health providers to be dispatched with officers?
Yes. So that actually is funding we put in the budgets that the fiscal year we're in right now, which increases the size and number of our critical response teams that the Department of Behavioral Health has. Having them, and then we started a program with 911 that began at this point about 6 or 7 months ago that starts to divert mental health calls to clinicians and also send out these mobile crisis teams. The funding we have in the budget allows for that program to go 24/7. It also allows us to increase the criteria that we have so more and more calls can be done either solely by mental health clinicians or jointly dispatched between MPD and mental health clinicians. A lot of that will be policy and not budget, as both behavioral health clinicians and MPD start to incrementally but steadily expand the number and types of calls that they respond to together or get diverted altogether to DBH. So it doesn't always show up in the budget because policy changes.
Okay, Katie, we're going to have Yushena will be the last question in the chat. If you have additional questions, we will get those questions over to Mr. Donahue. Go ahead, Katie.
Last two questions, as there are ones before that. Did the budget include an item for road resurfacing and filling potholes? And then the last one, are the staffing increases at the various agencies going to be funded long-term?
Two great questions. So it does include a significant capital investment to be able to do road reconstructions. There's also increases to the funding available for pothole filling. Importantly, also funding for some truck replacements at DDOT and DPW, which often can limit the productivity of those hardworking teams. In terms of staff increases, actually the CFO requires us for all staff increases, unless we specifically designate them as temporary, which is unusual. We sometimes will do that. The CFO requires us, and has for many years, to fund that throughout the entire financial plan. So those increases will be there to stay. If there's other questions, I get excited about the budget. I'm excited that you're asking questions, and I will make sure we respond to those tomorrow. If you get those to me later today, or later tonight, or early tomorrow.
Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Donahue, and we will keep moving the agenda. We are now going to, we do have Mr. We have Howard. Is Howard still on?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Hello.
you so much. We're gonna let Howard Mitchell go. He's gonna just take a minute to give us an update about the big event that's gonna happen in our community on May 14th. And then we're gonna get to our DOEE representatives. And please don't hang up, because we have some good news from our committees. We'll hear from Mr. Oliver from the library, and then we'll hear from Edward Washington from the Parks Main Street. Okay, you're up, Howard.
All right. Thank you, President Rogers. Just a quick reminder and an update on May 14 from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. We have been planning for more than a year the Lamond-Riggs Boys and Girls Club Recreation Reunion Celebration. You know, the Boys and Girls Club and the Recreation Center and the services provided to youth date back to the 1960s, when many of us moved into the community. So we want to celebrate the wonderful accomplishments of the community, of the individuals who still reside there and families, and those who have moved out and done great things across the country and the world. So the program is from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock, food and beverages, fellowship. Ms. Settles from the Recreation Center has engaged us with the Recreation Center services, fun wagons, skates, scooters, bikes for young people, moon bounce, and we're going to have a wonderful celebration of the accomplishments and successes of the Lamond-Riggs Boys and Girls Club. Thank you,
Yes,
President
thank you
Rogers.
so much, Howard. What I want to add about this event, if you would like to volunteer, if you would like to make a donation, again, they are attempting to provide free food and drinks for all of the attendees. So if you would like to volunteer your time, if you would like to make a donation, Howard, are you able to put your information in the chat?
Yes, I will.
He will put his contact information, but we need your support to make this event a big success. And I know I am looking forward to coming out that day. Thank you so much, Howard.
Thank you.
All right, so do we have our DOEE representatives on? The first is Hannah. Is Hannah on?
Yes, I'm here, Barbara.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you so much for your patience.
No problem. Happy to be here.
I will let you say your last name so I will not mess it up. But this is Hannah, and she's from DOEE. And again, we have Hannah out because we got a concern from a neighbor. well, from a resident, and this had to do with marijuana smoke that is coming into her home from a neighbor. And so she sent us an email, and of course we jumped right on it to address this issue, this concern. So Hannah is going to talk a little bit about what are your options. And this particular neighbor was really concerned about seniors. She wanted to make sure like seniors were not you know, going through this with smoke coming, you know, through the vents. So we'll have Hannah, and then the other part of DOEE is the River Smart program, and we do have a representative that will talk to that as well. Hannah, you have the floor.
Thanks, Barbara. And I have a couple of slides. It'll be real quick. Let's see. Oh, it says I can't share my screen. So
wait, give it 1 second. Angie, can you allow her to share her screen?
Let's see. All right, there we go. All right, can everyone see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So yeah, thanks for having me, Barbara. I'm happy to talk a little bit about how DOEE regulates odors in general. Unfortunately, I think our regulations don't cover individual use, but I did want to talk to you guys a little bit about what we can and can't regulate. So just to give a little clarification. So first, just to give some background, DOEE, we do regulate nuisance odors. This is our regulations here, 20 DCMR. They regulate any emission into the atmosphere of odorous or other air pollutants from any source in any quantity that's likely to be injurious to public health or welfare. I put here just an example of some of the things that we can cover under regulations and what we typically cover. So here, this is an example. It's looking at tar cooker for some roofing operations. So typically we cover things like industrial operations that apply for commercial and industrial facilities. I will say our regulations are a little unclear. We have some proposed proposed updates to our regulations. They're not final yet, but we just had the public comment period end on January 31st. So these give a little bit more detail on sort of what our authorities are in as far as odors and what we can and can't regulate. So there are certain categories that we are going to require for them to submit an odor control plan. That means they have to reduce odors to DOEE. So we cover marijuana cultivation, processing, or dispensing operations that are licensed under DC law. So any sort of marijuana processing operation, or things where we're growing, or there are a lot of dispensaries around. So if you get odors from any of those types of facilities, or people say outside of those facilities that are congregated, those are things that we can, we certainly have authority to regulate and require them to reduce the odor. Fortunately, there's sort of an area where DOE does not have authority with private citizens using marijuana, especially in their homes. That's not something we can cover under our regulations. So something like that would have to be referred to an MPD. But I did want to make you all aware of some of the types of things that we can, that you can submit an odor complaint to DOEE about. And so these are some of the examples listed here, but really there's, any sort of facility where you have odors coming from things like trash transfer stations, asphalt processing plants, wastewater treatment, any solid fire cooking operations. So that's things like, grills or anything that uses like coal or wood burning for cooking. So those are the types of things that we can and can't unfortunately regulate. But just so you are aware, if you do come across any of these types of odors that we, in your neighborhood, or we also regulate a lot of other air quality concerns, you can submit a service request in 311. Also, if you're not sure what exactly the odor is coming from, but at a certain time of day you notice, oh, it keeps popping up, then you can certainly send that over to us and we'll send out an inspector. So just, we have a service request in DC 311. The service request type is DOEE general air quality concerns. So you'll see dust, visible emissions, odor, and asbestos. All of those can be submitted in 311 through using this service request type. So yep, for those of you, I'm sure many of you used 311 before, but you just put in your location and send it on over to us. We also accept submissions by email to air.quality@dc.gov if there's a specific situation that you want to send over, and if 311 isn't working, especially sometimes that happens where people have issues with 311, you can send it by email to us, and you can include photos. Also, you can, of course, reach us by phone. There's our phone number there. So that's what I had, and I'm open to any questions.
Okay, do we have any questions? Any questions in the chat?
Yes. Is DOE conducting or did they conduct a study regarding air quality in homes of seniors who have been impacted by marijuana smoke? I thought Councilmember McDuffie said his office was working with DOE on such a study.
I'm not aware of any study on indoor marijuana smoke on seniors, but it might be something Department of Health. Unfortunately, that's also an area where DOE, we don't have regulatory authority over just indoor air inside people's homes. So something like that would be with Department of Health also. So I can follow up and see if there's if there's anything with Department of Health and get back to you.
One other question, seems like the violations cover commercial operations. If marijuana odor was coming from someone renting Airbnb for a party, would that be covered?
Typically we don't cover, residential, but I'm actually not sure about that one. I'd have to check with our attorneys.
Yeah,
so
that's a good question.
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. That's something I definitely have to check with my attorney for answer on that. But if you can actually send an email, if there's a specific example, especially just kind of outlining that, I'll put in the chat. So air.quality is where any air quality concerns, something's going on in your neighborhood, you can always send it over, and we have inspectors that are, and it'll also come to me. So please send over, and I'll check with our attorney as well on the Airbnb question and get back to you. Your question.
Okay, any more questions? Any more questions, Katie?
Nope, that's it.
Okay, thank you so much, Hannah. I will let you introduce your partner.
Yes, we're happy to have Ariel Conti to talk about the River Smart Homes. So Ariel, take it away.
Thank you. Appreciate the time. Appreciate you all staying on late. I know everybody has big days. I've got 10 minutes to talk about River Smart Homes, and I'm going to go ahead and share a few slides with you all. All right. Okay, so River Smart Homes. My name is Ariel Conti. I'm the River Smart Homes team lead. I work for Department of Energy and Environment in our Watershed Protection Division. I work for the River Smart Homes program. I'm going to talk about it a little bit. We'll do an overview of it. I'll talk a little bit about what features we can install on residential properties, steps to becoming a River Smart homeowner, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. So River Smart Homes is a clean rivers program. It's all about reducing the amount of pollution that's getting into our streams and rivers. And we do that by installing what we call green features on residential properties. These are things like rain barrels, shade trees, rain gardens, basescape gardens, and removing hard surface and replacing it with permeable pavers or revegetating that area. The benefits of the River Smart Homes program are both communal, right? We're cleaning our rivers, we're reducing the amount of pollution that's getting in there, we're recharging groundwater, we're creating more habitat for our non-human neighbors. We are including beneficial insects, pollinators, birds, and we're promoting conservation. We're also beautifying your yard and providing gray water for you to use so that you don't have to use the tap to water your outside plants. River Smart Homes has been around since 2009. Hopefully you all are either aware of it, or maybe you've seen some signs in your neighborhood that say clean water starts here. That's our program. We've had more than 13,000 applicants. We've conducted more than 10,000 audits. That's where we actually go out to your house and talk to you about which green features we can install on your property. You can see here, we've installed thousands of green features all across the city. Each one of those dots is either a rain barrel, a tree, a garden, or a permeable paver that we've put on residential properties. So you can see the thousands of folks who've taken advantage of this city program. So again, here is a list of the features that we can install on your property. These are all installed at discounted rates. So you're looking at paying anywhere from $50 to $100, well, actually anywhere from $0 to $100 for any of these projects. So if you're interested in signing up for the program, I'm going to go through what that will entail. But each of these projects I'm going to go through. So shade trees, you can get installed, you can get planted on your property for free. Rain barrels, you can get for $50. You can get up to 2 rain barrels per property. We can do up to 2 landscaping projects on your property as well. So that's either a rain garden or a basescape garden. Each one of those is going to be $100. So that includes everything from the design work, the plants, and the installation. And then we also provide rebates for those who want to take up any hard surface. So say you have a parking pad or a patio that's cracking that you need replaced. We would encourage you to consider replacing that with something that's more permeable, that can infiltrate water so that you're not putting concrete back in that spot. So let's talk a little bit about what the process looks like. You can sign up online, and I'm going to drop that link in the chat. It's a really quick application. In about 2 to 4 months, you'll get assigned an auditor. It'll likely be either me, because I audit Ward 4. I'm a Ward 4 resident. I'm actually a little bit west of you guys. I'm in Brightwood, or my colleague. And we'll actually then schedule a time to come out to your property and take a look at that property. We'll together with you walk around and discuss, okay, where are some of the water issues that you have, or where are some of the water issues that you have on your property, right? Where's water pooling? Maybe water's moving really fast down a slope on your property and it's creating erosion. And so we'll take a look and see where are the projects that we offer, where would they best work on your yard? And then we'll basically tell you everything that's possible on the property. And each one of those projects, what it's doing is it's helping water stay on your property and infiltrate into the ground so that less storm water is moving into our streams and rivers. And then you decide which projects you want to install. So that can be, say we recommend 2 gardens, a tree, and a rain barrel. And you're like, you know what, I just want 1 rain barrel on my property. That's totally fine. We will move you through that process. So you let us know that you want a rain barrel. We'll actually hand you over to our nonprofit partners. So we work closely with Casey Trees and Alliance for the Chesapeake Bay, who help install those projects on your property. And then they'll actually make sure that the contractor comes out and puts that project in the ground, or puts that rain barrel on your downspout. Now, it does take basically almost a year from sign up until we're actually getting things in the ground. So I just want to be very clear about the fact that there is a wait on this. That's because the program is popular. And so we very much appreciate your patience as we move through the wait list. It is a first come, first serve program. So the quicker you sign up, the quicker you'll get to the top of the wait list, and the quicker we'll be able to get out there and talk to you about which projects we can install. Yeah, and I think that's all I've got. So here's my contact information. If you want more information about the program, if you have questions about the program, if you have projects on your property that need to be maintained, or you have questions about maintaining those projects, feel free to call me or send me an email. I'd be happy to chat about those.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have any questions for Ariel? I actually do have a question. You gave prices for everything. How much would the pavers be?
Yeah, good question. So we offer rebates for permeable pavers, and that's at $10 a square foot. So if you're taking up 100 square foot patio and replacing it with permeable pavers, we're reimbursing you $1,000. And that rebate is a maximum of $4,000.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, Katie, in the chat?
No questions in the chat. I would just say that I have shade trees, a rain barrel, and a bayscape, and everything is wonderful. And the best part is it's very low maintenance. So I love that.
Great, great, great. Well, thank you so much, Hannah. Thank you, Ariel, for your presentation. We appreciate you all coming out. So thanks again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, you all, we're almost done. We're gonna hear from Edwin Washington from the Parks Main Street. Edwin.
Yes, good evening. Let's see, my video's not on just yet, but I'll go ahead and get started. Just wanted to, there we go.
There you go.
But thank you, President Rogers. Just wanted to say thank you to the community for coming out doing the community cleanup. Commissioner Brooks referenced that there were two community cleanups taking place on the 26th. There was one in our single member district between up by Culture Coffee 2 and Hellbender. I do want to thank Ms. V with Culture Coffee 2 for providing free coffee, Hellbenders for providing some free beer, and also the Alan Thompson with Chick-fil-A who provided gift cards to volunteers. We had 28 who registered, 18 volunteers came out. Certainly that was that day we had that little freakish kind of snow, hail, rain, and that happened for a little while, but we were able to continue to go through that. So thank you to the community for coming out. A few things on the calendar. DC Small Business Week is coming up April 30th through May 4th. And then also National Small Business Week kind of overlaps with that, and that's May 2nd through the 5th. We will have our Riggs Park Art Crawl coming up July 8th and 9th, so stay tuned for more information about that. And also Art All Night will be September 23rd and 24th, when we had that for the first time live anyway, back in September. A lot of the community supported it, thought it was a great idea to have, and so we're looking to get started planning on that for this year. So we'll be reaching out for an artist call, for talent musicians, movement artists, spoken word. I believe Miss Settles is a great singer. So folks like that in the community. Christopher Prince was part of last year that lives in the community. So we'll be doing a call out, and we want to first take advantage of any talent that we have, the talent that is within the in the Lamond-Riggs area, neighborhood. I always just continue to support the small businesses in the community here on the Riggs Road run, and then also down by going into Galloway is our boundary, Galloway Street, South Dakota, all the way up and through to Hellbenders, and then Riggs Road from the bridge, the Metro Bridge to Chillin Place, and then we go a little mile away over into Manor Park, which is on 3rd Street, right, the 6200 block of 3rd Street Northwest, which is right by Coolidge. Always looking for volunteers to help us with any different activities. We did pick up several volunteers doing the community cleanup. Very happy about that. And the Parks Main Street is going to be involved with the, I guess there's the Earth Day cleanup coming up pretty soon. We're going to be working with Commissioner LaRoya Huff And I think there's also the Lamond-Riggs Action Committee. So we'll be there and being able to be involved. So that's what I have, just a few updates. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions for Edwin?
No questions in the chat.
Thank you so much. We're going to move on to Mr. Oliver has a library update. Mr. Oliver.
Yes, I'll make this very quick. First, I'd like to say to everyone, happy National Library Week. It started on the 3rd and will end on the 9th. I just want to make a few comments about the mayor's budget. This year, the budget for the library was $74.5 million. It was up from last year of $71.7 million, which was about a 3.9% increase. The big thing for everyone to know is that the library has added $1.8 million to hire 22 full-time employees so that the hours of operation will be as they were in the past. They'll be fully staffed. They'll be open late nights. And what that does is allow for kids to do homework, children to play later. And for those people who want to reserve conference rooms, those conference rooms will be available. So that's a big win for us. There was also a budget meeting today where some issues that I think Allison might be interested in came up. And those issues were basically that they discussed the possibility of a new library in Ward 4 and how they would go about doing it. They also discussed the Shepherd Park Library and what they can do to keep that going if possible. The other issue that comes up is the library naming. I just want to say that the trustees will meet sometime later this month to get the information that's been collected. Obviously, they won't make a decision then. I just want to say that two great candidates are Robert Bryant and Lillian Huff, and that they both deserve your consideration. And some of the issues that we discussed that of importance would be security in the new libraries, because what's happening is a lot of problems in the community are encroaching on the library. And lastly, we're looking at trying to get some of the technology, which is downtown, to move out into some of the branch libraries. And that's it for me. If you have any questions, I'd like to hear them.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Oliver. Do we have any questions for Mr. Oliver regarding the library?
I don't see any in the chat.
Okay, very good. Okay, so now we have committee updates. LRCA's committees have been doing great work. And so we want to start with our senior committee. Reverend Mays will give an update about the 2 events that her committee has coming up. And Reverend Mays.
Good evening, everyone. We had a meeting on Saturday. We are planning a Mother's Day tea on the Friday before Mother's Day, which will be May 8th from 11 to 1 for the senior mothers. You will hear more about it through the listserv and the newsletter, which will be out a little earlier this next time. But we are looking for people who would like to donate because we plan for this to be a lovely affair for the mothers. We think they deserve it. And also we will be doing the exact same thing for Father's Day in June. The men will be serving the ladies and the ladies will be serving the men. We look forward to your help in any way that you can, financially, work to help set up and break down and all of that we need help in. I think that's about all.
Okay, thank you so much, Reverend Mays. And we have Mr. Edgar Shepherd.
I want to say one more thing though.
Okay.
For all of the ladies mothers who plan to attend, you do have to RSVP because we need to have a count of who all will attend so we'll know how to prepare. And we'll be putting out flyers also. Thank you.
You're welcome. So we'll do flyers, and then also in the newsletter next month, we'll have information where you can RSVP. And I do want to acknowledge her co-chair, which is Mr. Edgar Allen Shepherd, is on the line as well. Thank you all so much. Moving on, let's go to Rabiha, which is she's the chair of our scholarship committee. We need your help for scholarships. We've had some donations, and we can always use more donations. Rabiha, you're up.
Hi, all. So yes, as President Rogers mentioned, we are going to be, we're in the process of getting our, well, we're in the process of sending out notices and flyers to schools so that they can participate in this year's process. And so where we are right now is, I believe we have, we will be having later this week notices that should be going out to various schools. The information and the deadline that we currently have is for April 30th. We may have to revise that slightly, but not by much. And everything would need to be printed, mailed, in the application package, postmarked by April 30th. Once we receive them, which we anticipate should be late May, then we will be also needing volunteers to review the applications and to score them. And so more information will be forthcoming later on, either by listserv or through our newsletter as well. And we should have more information definitely by before the next meeting, and also through with the next newsletter. Now, if there are any questions on that.
Okay, thank you so much, Rabiha.
Sure.
So again, if you want to, I see your hand up, Reverend Paul. If you want to volunteer to be able to assist in reviewing the applications that we receive, and I do want Angie to talk a little bit about what the application will be online for the seniors to apply, upload their necessary documents. Angie, can you speak just for a minute or so on what will be online for the applicants?
Sure. Really quickly, we are in the process of finalizing an online site that will be attached to our current website, lrcadc.org. On that site is where students can go. They can submit their applications, upload any paperwork that we need from them so that we can process things. Again, as Rabiha had stated, at this current date, the deadline for getting materials into us will be April the 30th. Those students that may have some issues with using the computer, again, can send things manually to us by surface mail. We will release everything at the end of this week by Friday, perhaps earlier, but look for it Friday, most definitely. And if you have any questions, Rabiha has actually, I believe, placed her information in the chat section for you to reach out to her, and we can get back to you.
Thank you so much. Reverend Paul, you have a question?
Madam President, not necessarily a question. I just want to make just a couple of remarks about the bereavement committee.
Oh,
if that's okay. Otherwise, we can...
Since you're on, why don't you you go on now?
So I know the hours late, my brothers and my sisters, but I just want to first thank those persons who have contacted me directly to give me notifications of deaths in our neighborhood and our community. I would like to suggest, and I'll put my phone number in the chat as well as in my emails on the newsletter, but feel free to contact me directly and or President Rogers, but since I'm the chair and I want to relieve President Rogers of having to worry about contacting me, back to back. Feel free to contact me directly for any notifications of any losses or deaths in our community. And that way I can share with our team, and then we can go from there. But I certainly appreciate all the support And we certainly keep all of our bereaved families in our prayers and our thoughts. I am the chair, and Brother Edgar Shepherd is our co-chair. And then we have Rodney Foxworth and Miss Vandella, Joanna Taylor, and a couple other persons, Dr. Mays and President Rogers on our team as well. So certainly we're doing our best to make sure that we at least let the families know that they are in our thoughts and our prayers.
Thank you so much, Reverend Paul. And again, the team has been doing a great job of reaching out to families. Reverend Paul will attend, if he can attend the service, he will. So thanks again, Reverend Paul, for your leadership on the bereavement committee. All right, so we'll move on. Let's do the Danielle for the health.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Just a quick update regarding the health committee. Please come out on Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock at the Lamond-Riggs playground on Nicholson Street. So we'll go walking around the community, and you also have the option to walk around the field. And so I just want to encourage you all to come out and participate. We are still looking for members to join the health committee. Our meetings are the second Wednesday of each month. So the next meeting will be on April 13th at 7 p.m. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that we're working on having a LRCA merchandise shop, in which we'll have merch for community members of all ages, from our babies, toddlers, kids to adults. It will be like t-shirts, cups, coolers, and a whole array of different lines of products. The goal here is for the material to also serve as a fundraising campaign to support our scholarship effort. So more to come on that, but just wanted to share. We think this is such an exciting opportunity for us to be seen in the community and have a uniformed way in which we can promote LRCA and our beautiful neighborhoods.
Thank you so much, Danielle. Next we have up is Tisha on the bylaws committee. I'm sorry. Tisha, are you there?
Okay. Family. I am Tisha Cockrell. I am the chair of the bylaws committee. We had our last meeting on March 26th, and we reached out. Barbara, myself, and Angie spoke with a representative from DC Pro Bono lawyers department, and they agreed to meet with us. They could not do so on our March 26th meeting, but they will be invited to our next meeting, which is April 12th. We were hoping to get bylaws edited and ready to get to you guys by June, but we think we're going to have to take a little more time to work more diligently. Things have changed in the COVID times. We now use Zoom. We now use PayPal. There's a whole lot of changes since the last time bylaws were updated, I guess, 12, 14 years ago. So with that said, again, the DC Pro Bono office will meet with us and tell us the do's and don'ts on April 12th. And then we'll be working over the summer with that. If I can also share, my Friends of Friends of Riggs LaSalle Recreation Center did testify in several budget and performance hearings, DGS, Department of General Services, DPR, and the mayor, I'm sorry, not the mayor, the council member Louis George's budget and performance hearing. So that is a public record. You can see the actual written testimony we turned in as well. I think that's it. If any high school students, I just want to know, wanted to go to Central State University, we still have a scholarship for that as well. I think that's my time. Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you so much, Tisha. And again, for our scholarship, if you know of a senior that lives within our boundaries, please ask them to reach out to us and to look out for the information that we will put out on our scholarships. The scholarship is, we do 4 $1,000 scholarships, and we're hoping to get a commitment for $2,000. So that would mean that LRCA, and we actually have had donations for the scholarship. So we would apply that to the scholarship. But also we hope to get $2,000 donated. So that would mean, you know, we would only have, we wouldn't have 4,000 coming out of our account. It would be actually 2,000, and we'd figure out what has already been donated to the scholarship. But please donate to the scholarship. Let's help our young people further their education. Now, Heather is on for, I think Heather is not with us, but she's on the membership committee, and we will have her provide an update next month. So we've gone a little bit over our time, but I'm so glad to see that we still have quite a few people still here with us. I will adjourn the meeting now. And again, thank you all so much. We're all just a phone call away. If you have any concerns, again, email us for any community concerns. We've actually had someone already email us to get a representative out from UDC for our next meeting. So again, we want to hear from you. We're one community, and we can all work together to make our community better. So good night. The meeting is adjourned. Have a wonderful week.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Night.
Night.
Night, everybody.